MeMo Tribe. There's Morgan. We both have on the same shirt this morning. The lime green God is dope. With the, this is a really pretty blue. God is dope. But we wanted to come on this morning and give y'all a quick little church update and a little lesson on our way to church. Now, we're not actually going inside of church. The church we currently attend is doing like parking lot services. I think I've probably seen all that on Facebook at different churches and whatnot. And even our grandma's church out of town, they're also not going into church right now. My aunt there's doing conference calls. But we have recently started going to the parking lot services here in Huntsville at the church we attend. So we're on our way there. Comment down below if your church having church. I haven't really been keeping up with the like rules per se. I have asthma, so I really just been trying to stay like not around too many people. Morgan, how do you feel about parking lot services?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's different. Definitely different. And I also want to point out that this is not my typical, setup on a Sunday. This is gonna be like I don't want to say vlog, it's just a car ride, and I am going to talk about some scriptures, but it's not going to be the normal setup. And I asked y'all to bear with us the other week because me and Morgan are both transitioning into new seasons of life, so just bear with us. I just need a few more weeks because I have totally lost grasp of the schedule. But let me just move forward. So there's the church update. What I wanted to talk about today was Ephesians 5 verse 11. If you follow me on Facebook, I had posted the other day, and this verse came up in one of my replies to someone who had replied on my post. And so with everything going on in the world, I just think that this lesson is important, not just for the children that I hope are still watching when we do post on Sundays, but also for adults and just everyone who is a believer of Christ, right? So I'm gonna read the verse in NIV. Remember, it's Ephesians 5 verse 11, and I recommend that you read the whole chapter. Ephesians is a church, and the Apostle Paul was writing letters that as epistles to the church of Ephesians, and so this is chapter 5. And yeah, so I recommend you read this. It's really good. I read it in really all the versions, but the Message, that version of the Bible, like, it don't play like savage mode, okay? So I recommend reading the whole chapter, but I'm gonna just be talking about verse 11. And it reads, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. I'm gonna read it one more time. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Okay, so in the previous 10 verses in this chapter, there are examples given of things that are done in the darkness. And there's like a charge in verse 9 and 10, basically says to live as children of light. So verse 11, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of the darkness, but rather expose them. I was reading the Matthew Henry commentary, which my dad put me on to that. It's really, really good. And it was saying, because it says fruitless deeds of the darkness, nothing you do, no matter how you think, is going to end up in the long run. When it's done in the darkness, when it's done in a way that is not pleasing to the Lord, the end results will never be fruitful. So I think that's important to know. God does not bless mess. He doesn't. He don't like ugly, and he don't bless mess. So it's unfruitful. And anything you do in the darkness is unfruitful, because if it was fruitful, you'd be able to do it in the light, right? That's just how I kind of think about it. And then it charges us at the end, but rather expose them. And I don't read that as read it or interpret that as be out here being a tattletale, right? In different situations in life, because I've been in plenty, there's just a time where you stand up for what is right. Would you agree, Morgan? Yes. And that's what I take on the expose part to be. Not like, growing up, Morgan would do something and I'd be like, oh, mama, or Keith would do something, our brother, oh, daddy Keith, like, that's just snitching. That's telltale, right? But when it comes to God's kingdom, the treatment of his people, there is a time when you are supposed to expose darkness. You call it what it is. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard, even me, to do that because, you know, when you try to take a stand for what's right, then people want to call you a hypocrite, you know, because, you know, you do stuff that's wrong too. Understand, we all do stuff that's wrong. However, in the Bible, there is righteous judgment and there is hypocritical judgment. And so what I see a lot of the time is people shut all judgment down, even if it's righteous, and understanding that in the Bible, God sent folks to call folks out on how they've been living, especially when they've been claiming to rep Christ. That is righteous judgment. God told me to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. That's righteous judgment. Hypocritical judgment is when you out here living in the same manner and trying to call somebody out on it. I posted last night, the pot love calling the kettle black, and it truly does. You can't be out here moving like the devil, being messy, being an instigator, gossiping, and then when folks call you out on it, you try to say that they're being a hypocrite. Like, right? That don't even make sense. But that's getting besides the point. So anyways, what we see in the world right now is a ton of racism. And something we will see is the quote by Martin Luther King, you know, silence at this time. Well, I don't even want to misquote it. More, you know what to say? I don't know it word for word, but it's basically saying like your silence makes you just as bad as the oppressor. Something along those lines. I don't know what the quote actually says, but it's basically saying like your silence is just as bad. And this is what this verse speaks to in the Matthew Henry commentary. So people think, you know, it ain't my place, I shouldn't say nothing. But like I said, there are times in life where you gotta stand for what's right. And we see in the world now where that time with racism has come. Just because you aren't the one perpetrating, is that the right word? Racism, if you sit there and let it happen without saying nothing, you are now just as guilty. And this is why I encourage you to read the full chapter, because when you are an accessory to sin, which I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more, you will receive the same punishment as those who are sinning. So how do you become an accessory to sin? And it's not just a racism, right? If you try to conceal it, as in hide it, sweep it underneath the rug, and you know what's going on, you're an accessory to the sin. If you encourage people to sin, you condone it, you give them your consent to do so, and you know it's wrong, you are now an accessory to the sin. As Christians, we have a duty to stand for what's right and to present righteous judgment. We have a duty. And a lot of the times, people will cower out of that duty because, look, y'all, the devil, like, he's so slick with it. Like, you will try to stand for what's right and be further intimidated, and the script will get flipped. I said that all backwards because you're standing for what's right, and it make people back down from that duty. Well, I'm here to tell you guys this morning, Megan, when she feels it's time to stand for what's right, she does so. I done been through a lot in life. Morgan, you too. I've been through a lot of life. My own personal experiences was, you know, the fear for standing up for what was right when it came to how people were being treated, even the racism thing. I just keep my mouth shut. It's easy to just be quiet, right? But that's not what our duty calls for us to do. Because I don't want it to be Judgment Day and God asking me, like, why you ain't stand for what's right. And I was reading elsewhere in the Bible, I can't even tell y'all where, this week, because I've been doing a lot of studying, just trying to figure things out. I told y'all that's why I don't like to post when my mind not right, and it's been like that for a few weeks now. But I was reading where God was looking for just one to stand for what was right and, you know, give the people righteous judgment, and he couldn't find not one to do it. So now everybody getting punished because could nobody stand up for what was right? I'll be the one, Lord. I'm not trying to go down because everybody else want to go down. And if you read the verse, it says, you know, don't be partners with them, don't partake in it. It says don't be misled by the people who just be out here, you know, it's spitting religious flow, but they don't really live a lifestyle that backs it up. And so I just have nothing to do with fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And like I said, it's a time, y'all, like, you don't be snitching, but you know when it's time to take a stand. And I would say when things become a bit more life-threatening to people for how people are behaving, when it's just gone on entirely too long. And like I said, you can see this with the racism example in the world right now. Like, it's been going on way too long. Somebody gotta take a stand. Somebody gotta take a righteous stand, you know? And it applies in all situations in life. You have a duty as Christians to stand for what's right. You do. And when you sit there and you're silent, you are just as guilty. You have now become an accessory to the sin and an accessory to the crime. You can't just sit back and keep your mouth closed. Like, no. There's a time. It is a time to be quiet, but it's also a time to stand up for what's right. Stand boldly. Speak boldly for what is right, for what is just, for what is godly. That's all I got. Morgan, you agree? Like, what you thinking? You're not thinking nothing? So yeah. Verse 15 says, be very careful how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. I actually just skipped over verse 16. I should have probably read that one too. Making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. The days are definitely evil. So don't be foolish and understand what the Lord's will is. Like I said, I don't want God like Megan. Why you gave them your consent? Because silence is consent. You don't nobody got consent over here for me to do nothing that's wrong. I don't care what it applies to. Like, I don't even give myself the consent. No, I'm just kidding. My parents, I grew up in a house where like we was always checked, self-awareness, and I never turned around and was like, you such hypocrites. Like, the Bible makes stuff crystal clear. Wrong is wrong, right is right. God love it or God hate it. And a lot of times we're too scared to tell people like, no, I don't know about that. God, I don't think God wants you to do that, because we're scared to be called judgmental and hypocrites and all that righteous judgment. Okay, I'm a sinner. I know what I do is wrong. And you should not feel bad for telling people God don't like certain stuff when it's the truth. Now, do you need to watch how it come out? Yes. But never feel bad about it. But we just pulled up. I'll probably pull the camera back out a little later and work on editing this some more.